Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Originally posted to r/legal advice, university expulsion due to cheating. Now, for the first time in probably the channel's history, I'm gonna read the too long didn't read first, because, well, that's where OP put it. Now, normally I do move the too long didn't read to the bottom of the post if need be, but this is the first time I think I'm actually gonna leave it be in the beginning. Too long didn't read. Cheated on 2 exams during my last semester of university by obtaining a professor's login information and seeing the exams before they were given. Professor gave me an F in the course, but passed the login information along to higher-ups, who subsequently expelled me. I will be appealing my case. I have a few more days to send in an appeal letter. After I send in my appeal, I'm entitled, based on the code of conduct, to a hearing in front of the dean. I have contacted an attorney who's looking at everything. I want to know what the best course of action is to make my chances as strong as possible in getting my sanctions lessened. Location is the United States. The course I cheated in was not a major course. I completed all of my major courses by merit, and this is my first cheating offense. I've never been accused of misconduct or wrongdoing in my 4 years at this university. First and foremost, I have reached out to an attorney who has recommended me a few things, but I want to come here as well for any and all advice. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Backstory. Sometime in February, I planted a camera behind the keyboard in the classroom when my professor lectured. Once she typed in her login information, I was able to view the video and obtain her login information to use for my own personal benefit. On dozens of occasions, I logged on using the professor's login information on school computers in labs that have cameras, and viewed exams, passed labs, and even changed my own grade in the course. The first exam around late March, I had seen the answer key prior to taking the exam, and naturally got a 100% on the exam. No suspicion was raised by my professor. I continued to view answer keys prior to the next exam, which was taken in late April. My exams were very identical to the answer keys. I had noticed that the professor changed her password after the second exam when I went to log in again. And so, I put the camera back in the same place as the first time. However, this time, at some point during the video, it shows her looking directly at the camera, implying that she did indeed see it. In the beginning of May, about a week after the second exam, my professor came up to me after class and asked me to come with her to the department chair's office. When I sat down, the department chair told me that there was a strong suspicion of me cheating on exams 1 and 2, and asked if there was anything I wanted to tell them. I said, I admit I cheated on them. That is all I said. I did not admit to how I cheated. Afterwards, he asked me how I cheated, to which I did not respond. They had me sign a form essentially stating that I admitted to cheating and that they were going to pass along the information to the Academic Affairs Committee for further investigation and potentially further sanctions on top of an F in the course. About a week later, a police officer from the university came to my apartment and asked me to come with him. He drove me to the campus police station, where I was questioned about illegal computer usage. An hour later, at the Academic Affairs office, I was informed verbally that I was going to be expelled from the university, and a day later, I received a letter reiterating the fact that I had been expelled. The letter says that I will not get a degree, cannot participate in graduation, and cannot be readmitted to the university now or in the future. I reached out to an attorney yesterday and will be meeting with him tomorrow. The steps I am taking for this. The university allows students to appeal the decision within 5 days of receiving the letter, which I am doing. Essentially, the appeal that I have written states that I admit my actions were egregious, and that I felt so much pressure to pass the course and felt awful when I cheated even before I got caught. I said that I wanted to fess up but didn't know how, and that when I was confronted, I did not try to justify my actions, hide them, or lie. I came clean completely, and the burden was finally off. In my appeal, I am respectfully asking for my sanctions to be lessened to at most a suspension from the university so that I can still graduate, albeit not on time. I have not yet sent the letter, as I still have a few more days to submit the appeal, and I am waiting for my attorney to look over the letter tomorrow and give me any advice. The reason I got an attorney was so that I could either A. Heavily grovel, an attorney cannot be present during the hearing, and the attorney would just help me before I go in. B. Basically sue the school saying the sanctions are too harsh. I will not be denying my actions. The school has sufficient proof that I used the professor's login credentials for my own benefit. I have to come clean and just hope that the school shows mercy. If the appeal does not go well, I will resort to plan B, which is getting the attorney directly involved. Any advice on what I should say during the hearing, or anything else I should do? OP committed numerous crimes, by the way. Like from illegal surveillance to planting a camera to wiretapping to illegally accessing a computer's systems, which that is a thing. And like on top of that, the bullshit excuse of like, I felt really bad about cheating while I was doing it, but I had so much pressure. Dude, you planted a camera twice. Like if it happened once, that excuse might fly and have some more merit, but the fact that you had so much guilt about cheating that you were totally fine with wiretapping and planting a camera a second time to get the new login information. Also, if this wasn't a major course or not a merit-based class, then why were you cheating on it, my dude? Like, I'm left to believe this was just a general education course or something along those lines, or even an elective that you chose to then cheat on. Like, that's even more embarrassing, my man. Sorry, dude, I just really had to cheat on this ethics exam. Ugh. Hopefully I get an A this time. Originally posted to r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for asking if my boyfriend's friend would be paying for her own meal? I, 24 female, have been dating my boyfriend Charles, 23 male, for a little over a year. He has a childhood friend, Sophia, 23 female, who he met in foster care. They've stayed close even after Charles got adopted. While Sophia aged out of the system and had to put herself through college, she recently lost her full-time job and has been working part-time gigs to stay afloat. Charles and his parents have offered to let her stay with them, but she's always refused their help. Now, onto the issue. Charles's birthday was coming up, and he wanted to invite Sophia to his party. I wasn't thrilled about this for two reasons. One, Sophia isn't very social, and if she was there, Charles would spend all his time talking to her to make her feel less left out, instead of talking to any of our other friends. Two, she always dresses super casually, even for events where everyone else is putting in effort. One of my friends even mentioned that it makes them feel awkward dressing up when Sophia clearly doesn't care. Real quick, do you think there might be a reason that the child who had to live through the foster system and pay for their own college and is currently trying to find work may not be able to dress in a non-casual format? Crazy thought, I know. Anyways, we had a small fight, but in the end we compromised and decided to host two parties. One for family and friends at a restaurant the day of his birthday, and one the next day, with only his family, and Sophia, at their home. I thought it solved all our problems neatly. Plus, Charles gets to celebrate twice. However, when we got to the restaurant on his birthday, Sophia was there. Turns out, Charles's parents assumed she was invited and brought her along. And since no one else knew she wasn't supposed to be there, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. The issue was that we had booked an exact number of seats and meals, meaning Charles had to pay extra for her unexpected presence. As we were all entering the venue, I quietly asked him if she was going to pay him back. Not in a rude way, just as a genuine question. She must have overheard though, because she was noticeably quiet the whole night. Later, when we were back at Charles's parents' house, they had invited both of us to stay over, she insisted on paying him back, even though he told her it wasn't a big deal. His parents even got in on it, but she refused to drop the matter until he finally gave in. The next day, she didn't come to the smaller party. She called after it was over, saying she had to take an extra shift. I can't shake the feeling that it was a passive-aggressive way of making us feel bad for asking her to pay when she's struggling financially. Since then, Charles has been acting sort of distant with me. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but now I'm wondering if I handled it badly. Am I the asshole? God damn, OP is just scraping the barrel to find reasons to hate Sophia. Like, keep in mind, Charles and Sophia grew up through the foster system together. Like, in a sense, they're kind of siblings. Hell, I would actually argue they practically are siblings in some context. Like, that's family. Found or not, that's family. And Charles' parents understand that. Like, she was not dealt a fair hand, and she made what she had work. And OP is just trying to find any fucking reason not to like her. Hey, do you think there's a reason why the foster care child, who had to work her ass off to go through uni, might be a little socially awkward? Like, can you think of any reason why? I can think of a lot. Same goes for the whole dresses casually thing. It's your boyfriend's birthday. He should be allowed to have his found sister there. And instead you're trying to find every which way and reason that Sophia shouldn't be allowed to be there. And hell, you're so secretive and vindictive that the little line that you threw in there, which I noticed, by the way, since no one else knew she wasn't supposed to be there, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. That is a sentence that holds gallons of weight. Because on one hand, it expresses the fact that Sophia is such a member of just the friend group and family that when she did arrive, no one batted an eye on whether or not she was supposed to be there or not, and it was just assumed that she was invited. Which means that when you and your boyfriend got into a fight about Sophia's presence, the little comment that you made, one of my friends even mentioned that it makes them feel awkward dressing up when Sophia clearly doesn't care. That was your main example for why Sophia shouldn't be allowed at formal events. One of your friends feels uncomfortable by Sophia, if there is actually a friend of yours that feels uncomfortable by her presence. So your main example was, for Charles's birthday, that because you had friends that feel uncomfortable with Sophia, she shouldn't be allowed to come to the main party, but the smaller after party that's held in private. Then vainly disguised that as it's not a big deal because Charles gets to celebrate twice. And it even solved all our problems neatly. I mean, there's the fact that you got into a fight with your boyfriend for who he was allowed to invite to his own birthday party. That being a childhood friend from the foster care system. Bestie, do you hear yourself with this one? Then you made a massive deal about Sophia having to pay your boyfriend back when honestly he was probably really happy that she was there in the first place and happy that you didn't get your way. But then you made a big deal about her having to pay your boyfriend back, which no one even wanted in the first place, but she felt like she had to in order to compromise with you, the person that for some reason doesn't fucking like her, for, wait, hold on, let me check my notes, she dresses too casually and is socially awkward. I could go on for a long time about every little thing that's wrong with this, but at the end of the day, you strain the relationship between your boyfriend and his childhood friend that he grew up with in the foster care system, and you don't seem to understand or even recognize how you might possibly be at fault here. Like, hot damn. Originally posted to r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole, or are we the assholes, for quote-unquote ganging up on our friend? I, 23 female, recently visited my former college roommate, Brooke, 24 female, who moved out of state after graduation. Our other roommate, Gwen, 24 female, also joined. Brooke now lives with her boyfriend, David, 28 male, and Gwen and I stayed at their apartment. It wasn't our first time meeting David, but it was Gwen's first time spending extended time with him. During the first few days, David tagged along on our outings. I like him. He can be a bit curmudgeonly, but I just sass him back, and he's fine with it. I noticed Gwen seemed uncomfortable, and she eventually pulled me aside to say she felt weird that David was always around. She expected more time, just the three of us. I told her it wasn't a big deal since it's David's apartment too. Gwen clarified she didn't expect him to leave his own space, just not join every outing. On day 4, just as girls went out while David drove us, Gwen's attitude completely changed. She was her bubbly self again. While she was in the bathroom, Brooke commented on Gwen's mood shift, and I shared what Gwen had said. Later at dinner, Gwen mentioned how nice it was being just the three of us. Brooke replied that David needed to be included too since it's his place. Gwen, a bit taken aback, said she never wanted him to leave his own home, just thought he would enjoy an every daytime activity. Brooke got defensive, accusing Gwen of not liking David. Gwen said it isn't about disliking him, just that his rough around the edges personality made her anxious, and she really expected more us time. I stepped in and said David is part of Brooke's life, and if Gwen wants to be a part of that, she needs to accept it. Brooke appreciated my support, but Gwen just agreed and changed the subject. After that, Gwen seemed to go out of her way to be nice to David, but it felt forced. At the airport, Gwen was quiet and admitted the trip wasn't what she was expecting, and felt ganged up on. She said she tried to make the most of it, but didn't appreciate being called out for feeling uncomfortable. I told her she was the one acting weird. Since then, Gwen has been distant from both of us. When I recounted the story to my boyfriend, he sided with Gwen, saying he wouldn't have intruded on my time with friends and that it did seem like we ganged up on her. Are we in the wrong? This just gives off some mean girl vibes. They catastrophize the slightest disagreement or grievance to the most extreme extent. The way that Brooke addressed the matter during dinner gives me the impression that OP had told Brooke that Gwen wanted David gone and had no interest in having David around. Hence the comment of, Brooke replied that David needed to be included too since it's his place. That gives me the impression that OP had a bit of a gossipy version of events that she told Brooke, taking, hey, I want some more just girl time on our outings. I don't want David to have to leave his own place, but it'd be nice to have some girl time, to Gwen doesn't even want David around at all. Like, hell, OP even admitted that David had an unpleasant personality. Curmudgeonly is a very specific word choice to choose from, considering that oftentimes it's used to explain a grumpy old man. And all Gwen did, not confrontationally, just speaking to OP that they were expecting the trip to be more about girl time and they weren't expecting David to be around and David makes them uncomfortable. I mean, hell, Gwen even clarified that she had no expectation of David to leave his apartment, she just wanted some girl time. And was just more caught off guard because she wasn't expecting David to be there for every single outing. And because OP had that conversation with Brooke and there was the confrontation at dinner, it does come off that they did gang up on Gwen at dinner. So I'm not surprised that Gwen's now being more quiet and distant. And yeah, I do agree with OP's boyfriend. Like, I can see, but not agree with, the argument of not the asshole because that's Brooke's boyfriend. And if he wants to tag along, that's part of the equation now. They're a package deal. So it's not fair for Gwen to be exclusionary of Brooke's other half. I could see that argument being made, but I don't personally agree with it. Because Gwen wasn't stating that David just can't ever be around, it was just about the fact that Gwen wants some time to gal pal around where David isn't always attached by the hip and isn't making Gwen uncomfortable with his curmudgeonly personality. I don't know, but maybe I'm off base here. Let me know how you feel. Originally posted to r/AmITheAsshole, would I be the asshole public? Am I the asshole for wanting my daughter to stay with me for a year? I, 30 male, have a daughter, female 6, with my ex. We broke up before she was born, but I've always been in her life. The hardest part is that we live in different states. I only get to see her during school breaks and some holidays. Every time I have to say goodbye, she holds on to me so tight, her little fingers digging into my shirt, whispering, please don't go. And every time I have to pry her off, force a smile, and tell her I'll see her soon, even though I know soon is never soon enough. A few weeks ago, my ex told me our daughter has been missing me more than usual. She asks about me constantly, cries when our FaceTime calls end, and some nights, she won't go to sleep because she's waiting for me to come tuck her in. It broke me. I already hate how little time I get with her, and now I know she feels that emptiness too. That's when I had an idea. What if she stayed with me for a year? Instead of just short visits, she could actually live with me, my wife, and our son, male 3. She could have real, everyday moments with us waking up to the smell of breakfast, running to me when I get home from work, playing with her little brother, and falling asleep knowing I'll be there in the morning. No more tearful goodbyes at the airport. No more countdowns until I leave. Just time. Time to be her dad the way I want to be. I brought it up with my ex, thinking she'd at least understand, but she shot it down immediately. She said a year was too long, that it would disrupt her school, her friendships, her whole routine. Then she said something that stuck with me. She accused me of being selfish. She said I was only thinking about what I wanted, not what was best for our daughter. But isn't that what she wants too? Doesn't she deserve to have her dad in her life more than just a few weeks a year? I told my ex she could visit any time, that I'd make sure they stayed in touch every day, but she still wouldn't even consider it. I talked to my wife, and while she was supportive, I could tell she was unsure too. She knows how much I miss my daughter, but she also understands how hard this would be. Now I feel completely stuck. I don't want to fight with my ex, but I also don't want to keep watching my daughter cry every time I leave. I don't want to keep being the dad who's almost there. Am I wrong for wanting this? Am I the asshole for asking my ex to let our daughter stay with me for a year? Okay, so I did a little bit of digging, and while OP is not the asshole in this scenario, he is in the wrong, and I'll explain why. So first things first, from what I can find and from my digging, OP has actually posted this exact story on different accounts, and in those different accounts, OP has stated that he was the one who moved away. Not saying that puts him in a position of blame, but it does add additional context that is very much important. Now, I'm not saying that OP should move back to be with his daughter, but he did make the active choice to move away, and that has created the circumstance that we see before us. And yes, I do agree with the statement of OP's ex calling him selfish because he's not looking at the broader picture. He's looking more at the joyous little moments that are gonna be between day to day. He's not looking at the larger and broader implications and the fact that a single year isn't going to fix the problem at hand. It might actually make things worse if I'm gonna be honest with you. But OP is more focused on the smell of pancakes, him running up to her when he gets home from work, and not the other things that are gonna matter, like the fact that she's going to have to be ripped away from her friends. She's gonna have to learn an entirely new area. She's going to be introduced to a new school, new teachers, new schedules, new routines, new parenting styles. It's going to throw a massive wrench into her just development at this pretty crucial age. And not to mention, yeah, she definitely misses her father, but if she's there for a year, do you think she's not gonna miss her mother? To me, this sadly reads the father is more focused on the good that can come from the daughter visiting for a year and almost entirely ignoring the potential negatives that will come from his daughter visiting for a year. And I think his wife even recognizes that, with her being unsure of having her stay for that long. I don't think OP is the devil. I think he's just misguided by excitement and a dream reality that he sees but doesn't understand the consequences that will follow with it. OP made the choice to move away, and he's starting to have regrets about that. But any reality that he sees where his daughter comes to visit for an extended period of time feels more miraged in a fantasy reality that he's concocted, like smelling pancakes in the morning and everyone being all smiles and happy. It's just very storybook. I'm gonna get a little personal here because I do have experience with this kind of divorce proceeding here. When I was a child, my mother was set to be incarcerated, and I remember her talking about the fact of once she got out of prison, she wanted to make up all the lost time with me and having me live with her for anywhere from 6 months to possibly even a year. And that's with her living in the same state as my father, mind you. Well, the problem was, she was incarcerated when I was 10 and didn't get out until I was 16. At that age, I was very well aware there was no making up for lost time. There was no repairing that kind of relationship with just simply living with my mother after she got back for an extended period of time. I had already made my life with my father. I was used to and adjust to that, even as a teenager. It was a steady environment that I had. And I do remember when I was 10, my dad did set me down and told me, I understand that you're going to want to spend more time with your mom to make up for that, but that's not going to be a healthy choice. You need structure. When I was a child, I certainly didn't understand what my dad meant by this, and I thought he was being unfair and cruel. But as an adult, or even as the 16-year-old that I was when my mother got out, I understand that he was correct. There's also the fact that my father would have been punished for my mother's actions by not being able to see me for months on end because my mother made the mistake that she did. And in this case, for this story, the father chose to move to a different state, and he's dealing with the consequences of those actions, and he's willing to take away that structure, that stability, for a storybook reality that he's concocted where he believes it'll be the perfect environment for his child, not taking into account the other issues that will end up popping up in that situation. The father has good intentions, sure, but there's a reason why we have the saying that good intentions pave the road to hell. Originally posted to r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for asking my wife to postpone her birthday plans? My wife, 43 female, and I, 46 male, had plans to go to a restaurant for her birthday. It was just going to be us, not a larger gathering. This was a weekday, so this was going to be a dinner out after a normal work day for both of us. I realized 2 days before her birthday that the day of her birthday was the same day as my weekly community sports match, for which I'm a team captain. The team doesn't need me to play, but I had already missed the last 2 weeks of play because I was out of town, and I didn't want to miss a third week. The restaurant she planned on doesn't require advanced reservations, so it would have been easy to go another night. I asked her if it would be okay if I played my match and do dinner another night. She said she'd prefer to go out on her birthday. I explained to her that I'd rather play in my match because I'd missed a few weeks. Go to your birthday. And she said again, dude, oh my god, I'd rather do my birthday on my birthday. Yeah, but I'd rather go play my sports match. Anyways, And she again said she wanted to keep our plans for her actual birthday. She then said that it hurt her feelings that I'd asked not to spend her birthday evening with her, so I could play sports. While I agreed to keep our original plans, the situation caused a fight, and she wound up going to dinner alone on her birthday. Other context is that we live overseas, so our close friends and families are far away. We have a few acquaintances in our local community, but not close friends. Playing in my weekly match is one of the highlights of my week. The reason I missed the last 2 weeks of my match was because we were back home, visiting her family, and I really didn't want to miss another week. Am I the asshole? If the situation were reversed, I wouldn't care if my wife spent my birthday with me or not. Okay, yeah, but the problem is that she cares, my dude. That's where the issue lies. Edit to add info. Some people missed that I was out of town with her, visiting her family. This doesn't mean I'm trying to say it's her fault. I was away. She also takes off work and misses things to see my family too. Appreciate the perspectives here. Clearly, I am the asshole. Alright, dude already understands that he's in the doghouse and that he's the asshole, so I'm not gonna rake him through the coals too much. It's just such a goofy question to ask, like... just the idea of being like, yeah, I'd rather have my birthday on my birthday. Yeah, but I'd rather go play sports. And now your wife, unfortunately, has been left celebrating her birthday alone. Dude, this actually reminds me of, I think, one of the first American dad jokes that's like in episode 1, where Stan's on a fishing trip with his CIA buddies, and they're all shocked that Stan's acting so relieved. He's like, yeah, I just really rather not be home right now because this is the anniversary of when Francine and I had a massive fight. His coworkers ask him, what was the fight about? Oh, just how I forgot our anniversary. And there's just the long, slow silence from all his coworkers before Stan finally screams in realization for the mistake. And I feel like it'd be pretty similar if he actually went to his sports game. Like, wow, dude, you seem kind of off tonight. What's going on? Oh, it's just my wife's birthday, but, you know, I chose to be here with the team instead. I feel like that'd make the entire team feel very awkward about the situation they've been thrust into. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.